12:30 this afternoon, everything stopped working. Okay? Then I sat in Alex Gorbaczev's presentation and I was playing around at the back of the room, and some of you might have seen me doing that, and everything started working again. So I looked around at Karen Millsap, gave him a big grin, wiped the sweat from my brow, closed the laptop, came in here, and everything's broken again. Which is why you can see an Oracle Enterprise Linux boot sequence going on. Okay? So one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to pull this particular rabbit out of the hat, which is actually quite appropriate if you know me, and it'll be one of the greatest days of my life, or in approximately 10 minutes, you're going to be going to a different presentation than the one you thought you were going to go to. So while that does its thing, and with fingers crossed, let me see. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. Hold on a second. Close that. Something's going to work eventually, right? Okay. I'm glad there's some people here who know me and have seen me present before, so that there'll be about 5 people in the room that know I'm not a complete idiot normally. Hooray, something worked. My clicker works, okay? Okay. So, my name's Doug Buttons, and as a Scotsman, I feel I should apologise for the weather, because obviously I brought that with me. But hopefully it'll get better tomorrow. This presentation normally has very little overhead, so there's a very small summary, hardly any slides, and a very brief introduction. So normally I would keep this very brief. I might string it out a minute or two. Okay. So essentially, I'm a contractor, an independent consultant. Worked with Oracle since 1990. Anybody who saw Tom Kite's presentation this morning, that means that I've been working in Oracle a little bit longer than his son's been alive. And I've done lots of courses for Learning Tree and Oracle and conference presentations and that kind of thing. And as a result of that, I became a member of the Oak Table Network and an Oracle ACE Director. Nice tags, I suppose. But probably better known for my blog, which I have at oracledoug.com, which, amongst other things, has pictures of cuddly toys and blog posts about things like stats at the moment, but also some of the stuff which I'm about to not demonstrate to you. So at the moment I'm working for a big investment bank in London, but I've been doing that since June, working on data warehouse workloads. And what that's meant in relation to this presentation is that I use this stuff very, very frequently at work, and it's incredibly useful. And in the course of, say, 8 months, I've turned on lots of people to this stuff at work. And one of my happier moments, unlike today, is when I walk around the floor at work and I can see all these people with OEM top activity pages on the screen, actually looking at performance. Okay, where are the slides? Well, I wish I had some now. Okay. So, the general idea was with this presentation, and I've given this presentation a few times at different conferences, is that people are sick of looking at a bunch of PowerPoint slides. Okay? So, I wanted to do it based on demonstrations. And the reason is, even with the presentations about this stuff, which I like, by some of the guys at Oracle, they'll show you some pictures, but they'll be static pictures typically taken for their internal rack mail system. And it doesn't really show you the power of the interface. Okay? The other thing I wanted to do, sorry, I shouldn't be entertaining myself like this, but I've got to keep myself going somehow. Okay? The other thing I was really keen to do was to show people real performance problems, because I've seen lots of performance presentations in my life. People talking about specific views and tracing, and stats pack and AWR, but rarely do you actually see real performance problems, the kind that you might see at work. Now, I can only do a limited amount on my laptop. I promise this is going to be the last joke, right? Unless it all breaks. Okay. Right now I can't do anything on my laptop, but there's a limit to what I can do on the laptop. But I wanted people to have real demonstrations. And specifically, if we get to the end of the presentation, hooray, and you still want a copy of the slides, then I haven't done my job, because it's about showing you this stuff and not talking about it. So the particular pictures I'm talking about are the OEM performance pages in 10G and 11G. And this applies to both grid control and database control, which is important. It's important that you know that you don't need to necessarily be running grid control to use this stuff. Today, I really want to stop these jokes, right? Every line I see is a new joke. Today it's not 11GR2 on Wii. If it ever runs, it will be. Okay? And all the demos run happily on my laptop. It's just a never-ending stream of this stuff, isn't it? So you're aware, I've been running a 2-day course on this around Europe for Oracle. And my prior laptop, one of the reasons I've got problems, I think, by the way, is this laptop's a mere 2 weeks old, I think it is, something like that. And the reason I wanted to get it was because it's a quad-core laptop, it's a Core i7, and so demos would run more quickly. All right? But previously, even on a dual-core Bio of a previous generation, I was able to run 10GR2 database grid control, and sometimes, if I got lucky, 11G database and database control at the same time. The point is, the important point here is, one, you do not need to be working at a big grid control site. Sites like the one I work at, where they made a big deal of a big grid control implementation, spent a fortune on putting it in. Okay? Any 10G database, if you just use the default installer, will already have database control installed, and you'll probably remember, because when you've installed it, at the end it says, here's your database control URL. Okay? So what that means is that you can download this stuff from OTN, and I'll mention the licensing later. You can download this stuff from OTN, and you can play around with it yourself. And I thoroughly recommend you do that, because if there's one thing I think that differentiates people who really get Oracle stuff from those who don't, is they play around with it themselves on their own kit. Okay? All this stuff's available. I'm actually lucky, the site I'm working at, they're a good site with a good attitude. And what they do there is, even though they've got grid control deployment, they give developers read-only access. And what that means is, which is quite easy to do in grid control, to a group of databases which those developers work on. What that means is those developers are able to start looking at performance problems themselves, understanding performance, and essentially you've got kind of buy-in. So once they're thinking about performance, you know that they might care about it more when they're developing stuff. Fingers crossed. Oh no, in fact, before I do that, I'll give it one more. Actually, just a second. I'll see where we are. I'll tell you what we could do at a push. If it really doesn't work out, I could give you an hour on swing bench, which would be fun too. Honestly.